Hello, everyone. Welcome to Credential Up Houston. My name is Margaret Fort Fisher. Our program today will provide a compelling story of how a young man ascended from homelessness as a child to ultimately becoming a medical doctor. We will discuss how he overcame his dire circumstances, the support system that helped him, and how he's giving back in the community to help others. Joining us today is Mr. Anthony Sutton, medical doctor, University of Texas Medical School, and founder, MD Initiative Program. Dr. Sutton, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Your story is so compelling. And I would like for you to tell us about your journey, which goes through ups and downs throughout the story that you share in your book. So give us an overview of that journey, please.
Well, I grew up here in Houston, Texas, an area called 3rd Ward, South Park. Mom, stepdad was pretty strict, but my dad was pretty abusive when I was growing up. And in my senior year of high school, my mom left home, and my dad said, do not let her back in the house. And my brother and I were sitting in the living room, and my mother came home, and she was knocking on the door, and we were afraid to actually move. And finally, my younger brother had the nerve to get up, open the door, and my dad came around the corner with an iron chimney cleaner and swung it at his head. And so I tackled my father, and to make a long story short, my father put a .38 caliber pistol to my head and said I either had to get out on my own or be carried out. And so I left home that night with my backpack, with books, a few clothes, and I tried to find a place to stay, and I ended up sleeping on hard concrete behind an elementary school. And so while I was behind that elementary school, I was always asking myself, you know, what's going on? Why am I here? And I remember going to sleep that night saying, I do not want to wake up. And it wasn't that I wanted to kill myself. I just didn't want to wake up to the concrete. And something happened. Even though I didn't want to wake up, the sun came up anyway. And at that point, I realized maybe I have some purpose. And that's kind of how my journey from homelessness started.
This is incredible. And so your dad was abusive.
Yes.
Your mom left home.
Right.
Your brother, Ike, was
Right.
hit.
That's right.
And so how severe was that head injury for Ike?
Well, actually, he did not actually hit. He actually barely missed him with that iron chimney cleaner, which could have actually ended his life.
Yes.
And so, you know, we always talk about post-traumatic stress
Right.
disorder. So, I look at that and said, I don't know what is actually, like my younger brother now, my sister, and the rest of the family, still are recovering from those things that happened 20, 30 years ago.
And so what happened to your mom?
So my mom eventually, she stayed. And I guess kind of growing up in the area of time that she grew up, she felt like, marriage is something that is sacred and you have to stay. So she stayed. And my dad, actually, a lot of this was attributed to alcoholism, drinking. And so he stopped drinking when I left for some reason. I don't know what it was, but he stopped drinking. And things started to get better. But I was still homeless. I was still sleeping behind the concrete. And my brother Ike was bringing me cans of Spam at night to eat. And until a librarian one day saw me in the library, and he brought me an envelope with, inside of it had $2 and the name of this place called the Covenant House. And he told me, he said, take this $2, catch the bus to the Covenant House, and somebody there can help you.
Now that's another part of the story that we want to get into that really helped to transform your life. So you left home at age 17.
Absolutely.
And you were homeless then.
That's right.
How long were you homeless?
Well, the idea was to be there behind that elementary school maybe 2 or 3 days, but I ended up being there 3 weeks on the concrete. And so, but being I was actually at the Covenant House and throughout my senior year of high school.
And so once you got the $2, it's amazing. How did you use the $2?
Well, instead of catching the bus, using that for bus fare, I walked 10 miles to the Covenant House. And what I did was, when I got to the Covenant House, one of the stipulations is that you had to have a job. And so I went out looking for jobs, and nobody was hiring. And my grandmother told me before she passed, she said, anything that you want in life, just put your stamp on it. And so the night before, that next night, I put my stamp on it, and I said, I'm getting a job today. And I went out to this steak restaurant in River Oaks, and everybody else had turned me down. And so when I got there, they told me they weren't hiring. And I did something. I looked at the bus boys, and they were wearing these white shirts and these black dress pants. So I thought to myself, you know what? I took the $2 and I went to something called the thrift store. And I went to the thrift store and I bought me a white shirt for 50 cents and some black dress pants for $1. The next day I went back to that steak restaurant and I walked in there just like I was one of the employees. And I started working.
Amazing. And so during that time when you were working there, how much did you earn?
Zero.
That's what I
I
think.
earned nothing.
But
Actually,
you did it because
I knew at that point that if I wanted something, I had to go get it. And what was ironic was at the end of the night, the Houston Rockets came in for a private party, and they invited, the waiter told me he wanted me to be the busboy for this table. How did I blend in? I don't know, but I'm a busboy for this table, and I'm not even an employee there. At the end of the night, one of the Rockets comes over to me and gives me a $100 bill. So at that point, I know I'm coming back tomorrow, whether they say I can come back or not.
Of course,
Right.
of course. So he did not know your story.
Did not know my story.
But felt compelled to give you the money.
Yes.
You know, a lot of people wonder about the young people they see on the streets and the older persons as well. And they're wandering from place to place. They're sleeping on the ground. They're sleeping on the concrete.
That's right.
How do they go about taking care of themselves, cleaning themselves, and so forth, washing the face, brushing the teeth?
Right.
You walked away with essentially little.
Right, right. And you get very creative when you're homeless. And a lot of things, like I was still in school.
Yes.
So I was able to eat breakfast and lunch.
Right.
And I was an athlete. So, of course, the gym, we had full access to the gym, the showers, and everything like that. So that was the only time that I really had to groom myself.
So what was the mindset that you had to have?
The mindset that I had was that even back then I was interested in science. But back then I was saying to myself, every single day I get up, it's only because my cells in my body decided not to die. So my mindset was, if they decided not to die, why should I? That was my mindset.
Now this is really compelling. So does this make you much more compassionate as you see other homeless youth, homeless persons on the streets, many of them who have given up?
Absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of things that I do now are kind of like anonymous, but I spend a lot of time when I just go out and I see young people on the streets or young people who are struggling, we just sit and talk. And if I can offer some guidance, some inspiration, or even financial support, I do.
So you have Hustle.
Yes.
That's a part of the acronym that you use. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the hustle was all about what I would need to do to overcome this homeless, going from concrete, right? And so the H was basically, you have to handle your business, okay? Everybody has business. I don't care if you're homeless or not homeless, you have business, so you have to handle. U was basically unlocking what's already inside of you, your own potential. The S basically was as simple as you step up to the plate and you stamp your life with excellence. The L was basically you leap without regrets. And a lot of times, we look back and say, I wish I would have done this. And so I decided that I would never have a regret. And then the E was encourage yourself. And so that's what the hustle is.
Exceptional. And so, going through all of this, was there ever resentment?
Well, initially, and it was because I felt like, a part of me, I felt like I'd abandoned my mother and my siblings because I left. And I felt like I escaped, but they were still there. And so that for me at a point, I had to deal with that.
And so how did you deal with it?
I dealt with it because I made myself a better person so that I could help them. It's almost like when you're on the airplane, put your mask on first.
Yes.
And so that's what I had to do. I put my mask on, and so when I was able to do that, now I'm able to really, my father's actually passed since then, but my mother, she's able to travel now because I can afford to send her places. She's able to get involved in more things. My younger brother and sister are doing well. So basically taking care of me allowed me to help take care of them.
So, your journey is one that is very, very interesting. And you look at how you moved into various careers before you then became a medical doctor.
Right.
And I want to discuss that, but I want to know, where did the idea come from about becoming a medical doctor? You always liked science. That was a true passion.
Yes.
But what led you to the medical doctor?
Well, actually, when I was really young, they used to have this show come on called Trapper John, MD. And I was just so amazed. They had this young doctor in there. It was so cool. I was like, that'd be really cool to do. But growing up in my neighborhood, I did not see a lot of doctors that looked like me. And so, really, when I went to college, the goal was to become just a veterinarian. But initially, that was my goal.
Well, it's really commendable, and this is a story that will help so many others to inspire them, for them to aspire to greater heights as well, regardless of the circumstances. We're going to continue the conversation in just a moment, and we hope that you'll stay with us. We'll be right back.
HCC. So many reasons, so little tuition. Register today at hccs.edu/now.
HCC's online college is officially open. This not only means online classes, but also online degrees and certificates. You can now credential up anytime, anywhere. Join the fast-growing number of students getting their full college education from anywhere they use a laptop. HCC currently offers 32 fully online degrees and will offer 71 next year. You no longer have to find a way or time to get to college. HCC brings college to you.
Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. Today we're so fortunate to be talking to Dr. Anthony Sutton. Dr. Sutton is at the University of Texas Medical School and founder of the MD Initiative program, which is really commendable. And you were telling us in the last segment about how you aspired to become a medical doctor, but you went through a number of different careers before you ultimately became the MD that you always aspired to become. So tell us about that, Dr.
Absolutely. I was considered a non-traditional student. So when I graduated from college, I had a 2.9 GPA. But I had children while in college, and so I had to support them. And so one of my friends told me that the police department was hiring. And I thought to myself, I had never thought about being a police officer, a cop, right? And so I ended up becoming a police officer. And while I was a police officer, I was enjoying it because I was serving. And this is something that was always in me. But one thing happened. One day I was working what we call the gang task force. And one of the gang members had gotten shot. And I was the first one there to respond. And I was thinking to myself, what can I do? I'm not a doctor, but I had seen some doctor shows. So I put my fingers on the hose just to try to prevent the bleeding. And they transported him to the hospital. And when they did, I looked at these doctors in these white coats. And I was in my blue police uniform, and I was thinking back to college, and I was thinking, wow, I would really love to do that. And I called my mom up, and I told my mom, I said, Mom, you remember when I was in college what I wanted to do? She said, yeah, you wanted to be a doctor, I remember. And I said, yeah, but I'll be almost 40, when I'm done. And she told me something that was profound. She said, you're going to be 40, whether you go to medical school or not. And at that point, I said, you know what, I'm going for it. And that's what I did. So I went in, did everything I needed to do, prepare for the MCAT, and got into medical school, got into UT Houston Medical School. So,
so phenomenal, because a lot of young people want to become medical doctors, but they don't have the academic preparation necessary.
Right.
And so it's a good thing that you loved science. It's almost as though all of this was orchestrated.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so the message from your mom made all the difference. That is what encouraged you. You make reference to the C's as well.
That's right, absolutely. I feel like my life has gone from C to C, and it's gone from what I call the concrete. And I went from concrete to college. But before college, I went to the Covenant House. And I went from the Covenant House to college, from college to being a cop, from the cop to the clinic, and then from the clinic to becoming the CEO of MDI Prep.
Oh my goodness.
So from C to C to shining C.
So what do you tell young people who aspire to become physicians?
Well, what I tell them first is make sure you have a passion for it. Make sure whatever you do is not based on anybody else, it's based on what you want. And then once you put your mindset to it, go after it. Don't have a plan B. Have plan A and plan A.
Plan A and plan A.
Yes.
That's a good message. And so as you look at the MD initiative, you're out giving back to the community, helping others. Tell us just a bit about that and what you're doing.
So the MDI Prep program was basically started to help students who may have struggled, who may have had a dream, but for some reason they suffered from what we call test anxiety. That's one of the biggest things we work with. A lot of students who just have problems with exams. So the MDI Prep program was started for that. We started with one student meeting at Starbucks in 2009. And last year we had almost 300 students in the program. So we've helped over 400 actually get into medical, dental, and pharmacy school.
That is a commendable story that shows how you're reaching out to help others. You're giving back so freely and so generously. And of course, you make contributions as well.
Absolutely.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, so we love giving back. So one of the things is the philanthropic arm of MDI Prep. We have a foundation, And that foundation is to help students who may not be able to afford like a traditional test prep program or even to afford the application to medical, dental, pharmacy school. So every year in April, we open up that application and we accept students in September.
Okay, so we're encouraging our students as well,
Absolutely.
who are watching our program, to make sure that they look for the application and fill it out, because there is such promise. And so I, at one time, served on the state medical board and went to various schools with the executive director. Dr. Fleming was in charge of the medical board at that time as a chair of the board. And it was really interesting to go and to see all of those eager young people and the diversity that was there. Has that increased in terms of the number of diverse medical doctors who are enrolling in medical school, females, persons from various ethnic groups and so forth?
It has. And just to kind of give you a backdrop on that, when I was in medical school, we had 3 African American students in my class, and I just spoke at the incoming first year classes at UT McGovern Medical School, and I think we had over 30 who were in this incoming class. So it is definitely, you know, it's definitely working. We're definitely increasing the numbers, and you want medicine to be diverse. You want it to represent the entire population.
Of course, you absolutely do. And so with the lessons that you have learned thus far and having taken those steps and being on that journey, what do you now say to young persons who feel as though the circumstances that they're currently in will not change? What do you share with them that encourages them to persist?
Be better than you were yesterday. And if you are, you're going to be okay.
Okay. And we have a lot of young people, even those who are in public school now, who are homeless and they are struggling, or they are in what is labeled as dysfunctional families, and they're trying to find their way. And so it really will be very inspiring for them to hear your story so that they can persist, whether it is to pursue a medical or health careers profession or some other career. Right. So this is magnificent. And so your book is See It Through. See it through.
See it through.
Hustle for success.
That's right.
This is absolutely magnificent. And encourage those persons who are interested in being further motivated to get it and to read it. They can find it online. Right. And I wish you all the very best. And of course, Dr. Sutton, we're going to have another guest on the next segment who is associated with the organization that helped to provide the platform for you to transform your life, the Covenant House. So we hope that you will stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Credential Up Houston. Today we have an incredible program focusing on from homelessness to success and great prosperity. Our guest is Dr. Anthony Sutton, who has a magnificent story and an incredible book that we encourage you to read. And joining us in this segment is Ms. Felicia Broussard, who is the Chief Development Officer with Covenant House of Houston, an organization that Dr. Sutton attributes a lot of his support to while he was searching to establish himself and to pursue his educational goals. And so I thank you so very much for joining us on this segment. You heard the compelling story that Dr. Sutton shared. And I would like to get your reactions to that, representing the Covenant House.
Well, it just couldn't be a better day for me to be here. And the opportunity to meet Dr. Sutton has just reaffirmed everything that we do. The reason we go to work, the reason we take time with every single youth that comes to our door is because we see the potential in them in Dr. Sutton. So, I mean, and it's just, this has reaffirmed everything that we stand for, and our whole mission is just for this reason.
This is what a great statement you have made, and it does reflect what you can do to help
Absolutely.
transform the lives of so many other people. And of course, you had heard of Dr. Sutton
I
before,
had.
but you had not met. Is that correct?
That is correct. Early on in my time at Covenant House, I was told about this gentleman who was the example for every youth that comes to Covenant House. And we talk about him all the time on our campus, and we let everyone know that, you know, you have difficult periods of life, you have challenges, but together with resilience, which he has absolutely demonstrated, and with a support system, then you can be successful. And we tell his testimony all the time, and it helps that we have his book as well.
Of course, absolutely.
But he is a living example of what it means to be, to have confidence in yourself despite your circumstances, and to rely on those you can trust to help you get to that next level of achievement in your life. And he has done so, and we hope the same for every youth that comes to Covenant House.
So what is the response of the youth who hear Dr. Sutton's story?
Well, immediately, it's ironic because they want to meet him. Is he in Houston? Where is he? So that is one of the immediate responses. Does he live here? Can we meet him? And I said, well, he is here. But the other thing is, you can be Dr. Sutton.
Yes.
right.
You can be that same successful story in a couple of years. And because of the fact that they are at this transitional period, encouraging statements like that and examples are really important. 18 to 24-year-olds really just, a lot of times need a mentor or someone to look up to that has been in their shoes and done the same things.
You are so right about that. And I saw Dr. Sutton, I was looking at him as you were mentioning how his story really touched you.
Yes.
And I could see that he was truly also affected
Right.
as well by your comments and the impact that through his journey
Yeah.
is now having a positive effect on others. So did I misread Dr. Sutton?
No, you read that absolutely correct. I mean, as she was talking about it, I was kind of going back to the days that back when I was at the Covenant House, we had these blue mats that we slept on. And I was thinking about some of the other kids in there that were with me. And as she mentioned that, I could see their faces, and I could see the current faces of the Covenant House. And she is so right, is that they can do it.
Yeah.
And I know the pain that they're feeling, and that's kind of what you were seeing.
Yes.
I understood that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But they can overcome that pain
They can.
and replace it with joy
Absolutely.
if they will persist and just
Persistence.
know that they can, yes, achieve.
Yes.
And so the mission of the Covenant House, tell us about that.
Absolutely. Our mission is to provide a safe haven first, and then absolute respect, unconditional love, and a voice for homeless youth as they achieve independence, stability, and success. So that's our mission, and we do that in several ways, but it begins with the basics. A shelter where you're safe, a sanctuary where you can find peace from whatever situation that you've dealt with. There's no judgment involved, very few questions asked at first. It is quite a scary situation to walk into an environment that you don't know what to expect. It is termed a homeless shelter, but Covenant House is much more than that. But when you come right off of the street, or from couch to couch, or from living in your car, or not knowing where your next meal will come from, that can be a scary, intimidating situation for a young person. And so what we try to do is create this welcoming opportunity where you can get your basic needs met. And then slowly we're helping you by connecting you with a case manager that says, okay, do you have an ID? And we'll start there. Have you had a physical exam at all? We have a medical clinic on campus that addresses physical needs first. Once you address the physical needs, then we move on to some of the things that we know create stability and long-term independence.
And so how long can the youth reside there?
So our Safe Haven program, which is our immediate shelter program, it can be from 30 to 90 days. And so in that period, we're assessing where you are. Do you have a job? And that's still one of our thrusts, is that you need to get a job at some point, or be enrolled in higher education, or completing your high school
And
education.
so the length of time again?
30 to 90 days in the
30 to
initial
90.
program.
Yes.
And then they move either into rapid rehousing,
Yes.
because some of them can go immediately into an apartment situation, and some also return home. But what we find the most success in is those youth that remain with us in a transitional living program that allows them to stay with us for up to 18 to 24 months.
Amazing. And was that the case with you, Dr.
Well,
Sutton?
it was actually the 90 days. I was in my last semester of high school, so I needed that was a great period of time for me, and it's always been like a home for me. And so again, when you were talking about homeless, you know, even though I was at the Covenant House, when I was there, I didn't feel homeless.
Yes.
So that was amazing for me.
So with the youth who go through the program, do you track them? Do you follow up to determine where they are and their successes and so forth?
We do have an aftercare program that continues after they move back into stable housing for a period of time after they leave us. And you'd be surprised how many come back also and give us updates. So we do keep in touch with them for a period of time to make sure that they are successfully living independently. We know that there will be bumps along the way. We all have challenges, and many of them do come back to us even for a small period of time. We're a safety net. We all experience some difficulties, particularly in that 18 to 24-year-old demographic. And so this allows them to feel that they have a home, a temporary home to come to and not be judged once again, get you back on track. But yes, we do track them in that manner. And we actually had someone come to our campus on Tuesday, and he was with us in 2002. And he is now working for an oil and gas company.
Oh, excellent.
He is as successful as Dr. Sutton, and just remembered Covenant House, showed up. We didn't know he was coming, but also was able to give that firsthand testimony of what it means to just be persistent. You may have some challenging days right now, but ahead of you are opportunities if you take advantage of them.
That's
So
profound as well. That is absolutely profound. Just a tremendous statement to make. And it seems to me that with the young people who are interested in an education, they're looking at various pathways for them.
Sure.
There are opportunities to have people to come in and to share that information with them, and I'm sure that you, with your case managers, make that happen. And so I want to thank you both for being on the program today, because once again, your story is just really so compelling that will touch the hearts and the minds of so many young people out there, but others as well, and hopefully with business and industry who are willing to support the upward mobility of our young people. Yes. So we thank you very, very much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
for having us here.
Absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. Well, I think this has been magnificent. Mr. Anthony Sutton, medical doctor. Magnificent. Dr. Sutton is with the University of Texas Medical School and founder of the MDI program, and Ms. Felicia Broussard, who is Chief Development Officer with the Covenant House. We thank you, and we thank you also for joining us, and we ask you to remember to always credential up. We'll see you next time.